Hey, small business people and lovers of good stories in general. Again, this is Small Business War Stories, episode 008. And if you had told me when I first saw the movie Fight Club that one day, as part of my job, I would get to sit down and talk to people who are awesome about fighting and soap, I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are today talking about fighting, soap, and sustainability in business. And it was a really exciting episode. Chris is a really, really great guy. Very, very authentic. And today's episode is brought to you by Proven.com. And Proven is the best small business hiring tool in the land. And again, I founded it, so I'm biased. But if you have any hiring needs, you can join thousands of customers who use us nationwide and post your job to over 100 job boards, organize everyone in one place. And there's a free 5-day trial you can cancel anytime. There's pay-as-you-go, no commitments, no subscriptions. None of that paying for that software you don't use stuff. And also, again, we're going to embark in a few weeks in the Soul of America tour. We're going to go through my puppy Muddy Waggers and myself going to go across America from Austin, Texas up to Saginaw, Michigan and back down talking to different small business owners about their challenges, about what they're doing. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's get into episode 008. And if this were the movie Fight Club, Chris would be Brad Pitt because he is much better looking than I am, but I'm happy to be Ed Norton. Let's take it away with Chris Cabiya. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. This is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. And we are live here with Small Business War Stories, episode 008. And I am really excited today to have with me Chris Cabiya, founder of Zen Soap. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Pablo. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So Chris and I originally met doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Chris is a fearsome Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner and competitor. So if you're in Austin, you should come train with us at Gracie Humaita. But soon after we met, I found out that you like to make soap.
That's right. Yeah, I did. It pretty much started, man, from Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu is what brought me to the soap.
How so? Tell me more about that.
Basically, I was working a job that I was pretty much miserable. I was in the construction industry, had gone to trade school, went through that whole process and was doing like 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. Just trying to make money.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was going to do.
Sure.
Was kind of coming like out of a kind of a rough part of my life at the time.
Okay.
This was kind of towards the end of my 20s.
Yeah.
My late 20s. It's kind of just like stayed at the party a little too long, I would say,
Got it.
So was just kind of like stuck in this job, kind of miserable, not really having any direction in life.
Yeah.
And my brother had turned me on to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he had taken a class and was training at the time and said, hey, you really need to go try this out. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I finally went and took a class and fell in love with it, as so many people do.
Yeah. It's kind of binary. I mean, a lot of people try it, and then a lot of people are like this whole hugging sweaty people for an hour a few times a week is probably a little much. And then the people who do stick with it become pretty militant, I would say.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I'm one of the people that definitely just fell in love with it from like the first moment.
From the get-go.
I was like, this is it. I found what it is that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so pretty much from there, it became about how am I going to train more?
Okay.
How can I create a lifestyle that revolves around me doing what it is that I want to do?
Yeah.
So
that must feel really empowering.
Very much so, but it's been challenging too.
Of course.
It's been really challenging, but with the challenge comes the reward.
Of course.
But that's basically how I got started in it. Jiu-Jitsu and soap, like these two things literally go hand in hand.
You know what? Tell me more about that, because to me that's actually really logical, but maybe for some people in our audience that may not be logical. Why is it that Jiu-Jitsu and soap go hand in hand?
Yeah, so from like a practical standpoint, of course, you're sweating, you're exercising, your sweat is mixing with other people's sweat, whatever else is left over on the mat or in somebody's gi. It can be pretty nasty.
And the gi is a uniform.
A uniform, the uniform that you wear, it basically just soaks everything up. Jiu-Jitsu traditionally, for the most part, is trained on the ground. So you're essentially rolling around on the ground with other people sweating.
Yep.
It can be pretty nasty by the end of a training session.
Sure thing.
And so it's important to have good hygiene.
Yeah.
And using like an all natural type product to cleanse yourself with, your skin, your hair, your body with is very appealing to people that train. They don't want to use something that you look on the back of a label.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, I know me personally, I can't even pronounce the words that are on there.
You mean in like ingredients for soap companies? Yeah, so that's actually really interesting. So that I know that for you has been a really big inspiration to have a lot of basically all natural ingredients in Zen Soap. So how was that when you before you'd ever made a bar of soap? How did you start researching this and get into it, and how did this all come about?
I still ask myself that question sometimes. I'm like, how did I actually like latch on to soap?
Yeah.
As an artist, there's so many different mediums that it's basically limitless, right?
Sure.
As far as what you want to create. And honestly, I still don't really know exactly what attracted me to soap. Maybe it was just kind of like, I don't know, the universe coming together and pushing me in this direction, but I see so many metaphors and so many like kind of different ways of looking at it. Like I mentioned, I was kind of like one of the guys that had been partying real hard and just kind of was looking for another way to get out of that lifestyle.
Sure.
And so jiu-jitsu was initially kind of what grabbed me and pulled me in.
Yep.
And then as I began to train and begin to kind of just work on this project to free myself from like this trap that I had found myself stuck inside of.
Right.
I began to see, well, getting clean through jiu-jitsu and getting clean, through the process of taking a shower with good natural soap. There's a lot of like crossover there. At least there was for me.
Makes sense.
So I really kind of like latched onto that, and I was like, there's something I can do here. It's more than just like, creating a good situation for myself. I want to like pass this on to other people.
Okay.
Because there are lots of people that have different kinds of struggles in their life, whatever it may be, whether it's addiction or anger issues, or maybe they spend too much money, just self-control issues, just different things, and I figured that through jiu-jitsu would be a vehicle for me to develop this company or this way where I could kind of like spread my message.
Nice. That makes sense. And when you put it that way, it really does make a lot of sense. There's a little bit of like soul cleansing through jiu-jitsu and body cleansing through soap thing.
Absolutely. It's like I feel like a lot of people are searching, whether they're conscious of it or not, they're searching for a way to practice being clean on the inside.
Yeah.
And of course on the outside too.
Yeah.
Getting dirty from work or play is a completely natural side effect,
Yeah.
And so there's different ways, that you can go about like seeking out this kind of process to kind of grow and as an individual.
Yeah, and it's interesting, before we get into specific of your first year of the business, that dovetails a little bit. Before we started recording, we were talking about a book on the shelf here called Instructions to the Cook, that it talks about how meditation and Zen practicing is basically this process of cleaning the kitchen every day. Like, living, existing, and being is sort of like cooking with the ingredients that you have in your life, and then meditating is sort of that process of cleansing that. So that it really, really, to me, resonates with that.
Yes, absolutely. Cooking's a great example. There's so many different. I mean, you can pick anything. And if it's something you enjoy doing, and you're in the moment, and you're just completely grabbing on to everything that you're being offered in that moment.
Yeah.
The breath that you breathe, the smells that you smell if you're cooking, you're washing the food, you're cutting the food.
Yeah.
It can be a very calming, almost like mindless type of meditation.
Right.
You're not really necessarily thinking about what you're doing, but you're completely focused on it at the same time.
Mindfulness through no mind.
Exactly, and this is the
Okay.
juxtaposition. This is like
Yeah.
the irony or the opposites that we find in life, the push pull. You
Right.
know, and I see so much of this through these kinds of practices, whether it's soap or cooking or jujitsu.
Yeah.
Like they say, you know, to know one thing is to know 10,000. You know,
Right.
to know 10,000 things is to understand. You know,
I like it.
what it is.
So let's maybe put that together and think about, so when you first, your first batch of soap ever, you know, we were talking this weekend, you were exhibiting at the Austin Flea Market, Austin Vintage and Flea,
Yeah.
and we were talking about the process of cooking up a batch of soap, which is, did you call it cooking up? Cooking
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's
So it
yeah.
is a form of cooking
It is.
that you don't eat. So tell me, as somebody who's never made soap, and I don't know how many of our audience members have made soap, how did you start? How did you first? What was your first batch like?
Yeah. So the first batch was the first batch didn't turn out very well. I'll just say that. Yeah.
That tends to be the case for most batches of anything. So.
Yeah. It's just it's always improving, you know, on the time before. But I had kind of like it was after training one day, and we went out to go get lunch at a local restaurant here in Austin, Bolden Creek Cafe, which is an awesome restaurant.
Yeah, actually, I had lunch there today.
Yeah, it's delicious. Their food's great. And after lunch, we were just kind of like wandering around on the street, and there was a little soap shop that's been here in town. A woman owns it by the name of Annette Mayfield. It's called Austin Natural Soap. She's like the OG soap maker here in town, you know.
I got it.
And I stumbled in there and
Yeah.
just was kind of talking to her, and through the conversation, she was just, you know, kind of telling me about the whole process, and it just, everything seemed very natural and organic about it, and so I felt like I should buy something by the end of our conversation. She had answered so many of my questions, you know.
Yeah.
And so I bought what's called Melt and Pour. It's a glycerin. It's a clear glycerin base that somebody has already made.
Okay.
So it's essentially soap that you melt down.
Okay.
And then you add whatever kind of fragrance or color.
Yeah.
Whatever flair you want to put on it.
Sure.
You put on it, and then you pour it into your mold.
Okay.
So you're kind of taking somebody's soap base
Yeah.
that they've already created and
Yeah.
just kind of adding to it. And that was how I initially got started, but it really sparked the fire of, I want to make this from scratch.
Yeah. So now you make your own base.
I do.
That's actually perfect, because I was going to ask you next, what is the difference in the process that you initially did to make soap versus what it is today?
Sure. So there's basically two main processes that you can use to make soap. There's what's known as the hot process. There's what's known as the cold process.
Okay. Which one did they use in Fight Club?
All of them.
Okay.
You can combine them. There's like hot process, oven process. Not to bore the listeners with too much of the details or get bogged down in too much of that stuff. But you can combine like hot process and cold process.
Got it. Okay.
So I essentially started out with hot process,
Okay.
which is just taking oil and caustic soda. You combine the two, and then you add heat to it.
Okay.
And it kind of just it'll make the bar kind of come out looking a little more rustic.
Okay.
Some people desire that.
Okay.
And that's how I started. There's not as much flexibility in terms of like making decorative soap or putting like nice fancy swirls in it.
Yeah.
You're kind of limited on that aspect, but
Yeah.
it's a really good way to start. You know,
Okay.
I used a crock pot
Yeah.
that I got, you know, from Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's basically how I started. It was hot process for a while, and then I started researching more and more, and now everything that I make is cold process.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no heat.
So what
added to
does
it.
that mean in 30 seconds?
Cold process it's basically the same process as hot process. You just don't add heat to it.
Oh.
So the
Oil and caustic soda.
it's oil and caustic soda. Yeah. and
Caustic soda is real dangerous.
It's
Is that lye?
It's
Yeah.
what's known as lye. All soap makers work with lye.
Yeah.
We work with the
And
lye.
if that touches your hand, you get hurt.
Yeah, it'll burn you.
Yeah.
There's no way to stop the chemical burn other than using a chemical.
Because it's a hardcore base.
It's a very strong base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to put some acid on it to neutralize it.
Correct.
So you have vinegar or something. like that
White
on hand.
vinegar. Yeah.
Boom! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, white vinegar.
Got it.
Yeah, man, and that's like that's a super important part of making soap is and working with the lye is taking all the safety precautions
Yeah.
that you need to take, eye protection,
Yeah.
white vinegar, keeping that around because it's gonna get on you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, it's gonna get on you.
It's gonna get on you.
If you make
no
soap,
matter how safe you are.
yeah, no matter how careful you think you are, if you decide to make soap, you will be touching lye at some point.
It will get on your skin.
Okay.
Yeah. So have the white vinegar around. Yeah.
How did that feel?
It burns.
Yeah.
It burns.
It's like being like getting burned by a flame.
Well, that's interesting because I had 2 skin grafts because I got burned by a flame.
Oh.
On my leg, yeah, and it's
Okay.
it's a bit different.
Okay.
It's a little different. It's more of like a I don't know. It's painful.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's kind of scary because you really can't stop it. You try to wash it off with soap and water, and it doesn't stop burning. It just gets more intense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Wow. So along those lines, or maybe any other line that you can think of, what's something that most people don't know about the soap business?
Wow, that's a great question. I feel like there's so many things that I'm still learning about it myself. I guess one of the things that I could share, like personally, I really started to unpack all of the things that I was putting into the soap. So in terms of like, what are the ingredients that I'm using? Where are they coming from? Why am I putting this in there? What is the purpose of it? How is it going to affect the soap? How is it going to affect the person that's using the soap?
Yeah.
So I really started to kind of nerd out on that, like the ingredients, where they're sourced from.
Yeah.
Is it ethical? Is it sustainable?
Yeah.
How is it going to affect the environment? How is it going to affect the
and
region
that's
that it's
something
coming from?
you talk about a lot, is sustainable palm oil in your marketing, right?
Yeah, which is a big issue. Globally, it's a big issue. It's not just the soap industry that it's a big issue in.
Okay.
Palm oil is in almost everything. It's in like peanut butter. It's in food. You know, it's in a lot of products, a lot of consumer products. You know, and so there is a big push by people that are concerned for the environment and the habitat, because what's happening is in the areas where it's harvested, they're basically clearing rainforests.
Oh.
Yeah, and planting and making plantations for palm oil.
Wow.
So it's destroying the habitat in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And the sustainable palm oil is it's basically just a push to use suppliers that are involved in the sustainable chain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's still an issue that I'm kind of on edge with, because the more I research it, the more I just really try to get away from using it.
Okay.
And that's where the crystal soaps come in. So I started making soaps.
I saw those this weekend. Tell me more about those.
Yeah. So I've been putting stones in the soap and certain bars of soap, and that basically came from my research about palm oil. I started to just feel like a hardcore conviction about it. You know, I look at the pictures of the orangutans and look at the pictures of the plantations and the land and what's going on in these different parts of the world, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to have any of that blood on my hands. It's like kind of the opposite of what Zen Soap is about.
Right.
You know, I don't want to be part of that destructive process.
Sure.
So that's where the crystal soaps came in. I started putting the crystals in the soaps because it cost more to use other materials than palm oil. That's one reason it's so popular. It's extremely inexpensive and it's versatile.
Okay.
It makes a really hard bar of soap, long lasting. It makes great soap. But the crystal soaps don't have any palm oil in them at all.
Okay.
You know? So
interesting.
Yeah.
What do you use instead?
That's a blend of 6 different oils. It's coconut oil,
Yeah.
Castor oil, hemp seed oil, olive oil, cocoa butter, and shea butter.
Wow.
Yeah, all unrefined, unprocessed.
That's cool. I'm bummed that this weekend I bought the soap that doesn't have stones in it.
Well, man. I mean, you know, I reached out to the people that I purchased the palm oil from, and they assured me that everything that they sell is ethically and sustainably sourced. So
Right.
I feel like I'm on the right side of that situation. But the idea behind the crystal soaps was to Just kind of test the market because I charge a premium price for those.
Sure.
They cost more to make, and the stone is an additional cost to it.
Right.
They're really fat bars. They're like almost 8 ounces, which is
Yeah.
like, you know, half pound.
They do look somewhat tower-like.
Yeah, they're big. So I charge a little more of those for those just to see how people would respond to it. And the idea is to eventually just completely phase out palm oil completely.
Got it. Cool. And that's something. So how long have you been from the first time you sold a bar of soap till today?
This is my second year in business, but I've been making soap almost since the beginning of my jiu-jitsu journey, which has been about 6 years.
Okay, but this is your second year as Zen Soap.
Second year as Zen Soap. Yes.
Got it. That's okay. So that's really interesting. So how long ago did you start really learning about all these issues of sustainability and all that?
Well, it's interesting because at first, like the very first, after the glycerin soap, when I moved on making it from scratch, I was using what is known as tallow, which essentially is animal fat or lard, which again makes awesome soap. It's like basically how people made soap like on the farm. Yeah. You know, it's a great way to like not waste any kind of product. Right. But I don't eat meat, you know, I have like a plant-based diet. Yeah. And so I just it kind of started there, you know. I was like, oh, animal fat, you know, I'm not really living on a farm, so it's not like
it's not as widely available.
Yeah, I have to go to the store and buy it, you know, and it's like, I don't know, man. It was just kind of weird to me. It kind of has like a certain smell to it. You can kind of smell the fat in it. Okay. Some people it bothers, some people it doesn't. Yeah. But I'm just always looking for like alternative ways, like better ways to do things. Yeah. And to me, getting away from like using animal fat in the soap was like the first big kind of eye opener as to like what ingredients I'm putting in there.
Interesting.
You know, and so from there it's just been a progression. You know, I don't use any like micas, which are like a synthetic colorants. No synthetic colorants. Okay. No animal products are used in the soap. It's completely 100% plant based. Yeah. All the colorants are earth derived, so they're either like natural clays or root powders. So like a root that's been taken and ground up. Cool. Yeah, same thing with the fragrances and the way that I scent the soap. It's an all natural product.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So, given that you're in your second year of operating your business now, what advice would you give yourself as you were starting the business? Now, if you could sit down with Chris at that point and be like, "Hey, man, you got to know this." What would that be?
Trust your instincts for sure. Always just believe in what it is that you're doing. I found that in the beginning I was trying to kind of please everybody. Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to do.
Pretty good way to please nobody in my experience.
Yeah. You know, really what it comes down to is just doing something that you believe in and making something or creating something that you believe in. Yeah. And I feel like if you're passionate about what you're doing as an artist or anything, and you really believe in it and you're going for it, there's going to be nothing that's going to hold you back. There's going to be nothing that's going to stop you. There will be challenges and roadblocks in the way. Sure. But you're going to find a way to move around it, and people are going to support you because they can feel like the vibration and energy that you're putting into your product and that you're putting into everything that you're doing because it's real. Yeah. And people want to connect with something that's real. Yeah. You know, and so I think that's the most important thing is just to believe in yourself. Yeah. You know?
That's cool. I actually feel kind of this through doing this podcast. I am connecting with so many people in a way that feels really authentic to me, and like a lot of good things are coming through that. So I can relate to that totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. Real people doing real things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. Maybe going a little bit into left field. What are some of the wackiest and oddest things that you've seen in the business, or in your experience running Zen Soap?
Oh man, just all the people that I meet. There's so many different kinds of people in this world. Yeah. You know, and I go to these markets and I'm already kind of surrounded by an eclectic group. On purpose. Sure. You know, I like to be around creative types. I like to be around people that are just maybe considered weirdos or freaks, or just they have a different way of looking at life, you know, or approaching life. And, and I love that. You know, I feel like it just adds a richness to the culture of art. Absolutely. You know, if you will, musicians and just people that paint or soap makers or martial artists, whatever it may be. Yep. And just the random people that I come across, you know, just conversations that I have with people. I have a rule that like, if I hear something coming from different people at least 3 times, then I generally follow that.
Interesting.
So that's something that I've applied in my life, and especially to the soap. Yeah. I'll get people, hey man, have you thought about this? And if it keeps recurring, if it's a
Yeah.
recurring theme,
Yeah.
I latch onto it and I go with it.
Got
And
it.
it's served me well.
Okay.
It really has.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'll start paying attention to that. That's cool.
Uh-huh.
So what are some of the wackiest characters you met doing this?
Oh, there's all kinds. There's so many, so many kinds of people out there. I'm trying to think of like a specific story, but I honestly I'm drawing a blank on this one.
Okay.
When I was reading the questions, I was
Yeah.
like, I need to like come up with a specific story. But like honestly, it's just like the day to day, just going and being around people and having conversations and just being a real person,
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
just being open.
Tell me more about so you're continuing to evolve your business. You just launched you call it a soap subscription service, and
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Uh-huh.
So maybe tell me a little bit more about that. So what's the new Zen Soap subscription box, and how did that idea come about? Was that one of those ideas that somebody gave you, and how's that going, and and also how can our audience find that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is an idea that has come from the collective group of people that I surround myself with. It's just a subscription box, monthly subscription box. So you go to our website and you pick out how many bars of soap you want sent to you every month. Choose your scents. We send them every month. And you can add on different one-time purchases such as beard oil or our soap savers or some of the other products that we offer.
Awesome.
And so that was just kind of something that came about from people suggesting that maybe that's an avenue that I should investigate.
Yeah.
And also, the majority of our sales are coming from these little markets, these like pop-up art markets.
Uh-huh.
I do some wholesale orders, and I've done some other I'm in a few boutiques around town. Rabbit Fruit Grocery is one of them. I'm in Gracie Umaita, Shed Barbershop, Atomic Athlete, along with some other little spots. But it was kind of like an idea to help maybe create some more stability.
People can buy it through your website.
They can, zensoapco.com.
That's ZENSOAPCO.com.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
and there's a little link there if you go down on the website, and it'll if you're interested in the subscription service, you can click there and follow that. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any sort of a coupon code for our listeners for the first soap box?
Yeah, Zen Soap is the coupon code, and we'll send you a free bar.
Free bar of soap
for
listeners of Small Business War Stories. Very cool. Let's talk about Austin a little bit. Where do you see? So Austin is changing so much. Where do you see Austin going in the next 5-10 years? You see, it's a city with a lot of soul. It's also a city that's seeing a lot of development and a lot of institutions that are maybe have not been able to keep up with that pace. How do you see the city growing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm a native Austinite, so I've been here and I've kind of watched everything.
Wow.
Everything kind of explode. It was kind of just this like sleepy little hippie town.
Yeah.
Like 10, 15 years ago, and then a bunch of the tech businesses moved here, and everybody kind of found out how great Austin was.
Yeah.
And everybody moved here, which brings with it good things and bad things.
Sure.
The economy's grown here. There's lots of jobs. There's a lot of money here, so it's good for people like me, little small business owners, because people want to buy stuff like that and they have the money to buy it.
Yeah.
Which is good, but at the same time, it kind of pushes guys like me out. Okay. Because I think initially the attraction for artists to move here was because of the cheap rent. Yeah. So somebody could be a musician or be a soap maker and afford to live here on that kind of starving artist, air quotes, type of income. Yeah. But rents are being raised and everything's just getting more expensive, and so it's kind of like trying to find the balance. Like where does it stop? Is the bubble gonna burst? I hope that the underlying current that is like the vibration that Austin has that initially attracts people to it does not die. Right. I hope that it stays. There needs to be people like us that keep that alive. And as long as there's the us's around to keep it alive, I think it'll stay alive. Yeah. There's some old Austin people still here. Yeah. That are passing that along. Annette is one of those people. She's a great example. She passed on kind of the soap thing to me, and so that's kind of, I kind of feel like I'm an ambassador.
Yeah, you're carrying the flag. I always think about the importance of storytellers and how we need more storytellers in our society and in our life to kind of pass on those traditions. And that's something that I seek to do with Small Business War Stories, is talk to more people about their stories and tell more stories. So
it's super important. It's super important to keep that alive, I think. And some of the stuff is hard to talk about, you know, or some people might not want to talk about it because they're afraid of how other people will think about them, you know, getting off on some keep Austin weird type stuff, you know.
Right.
But it really is, man. We need to keep the eclectic vibe here.
Yeah.
You know, we need to keep that flourishing. We need people to keep thinking outside the box, and we need people to take chances and just to decide to have an idea and run with it.
Yeah. Because
there's a community of people here in Austin that support those ideas and those
true.
people that are going for those ideas.
Yeah.
And that's really like the root of it, you know?
Yeah.
There's no business that's going to be successful without support of the community.
That's so true. That's so true. Is there anything else that you want people to know about your business? We already said your website was www.zensoapco.com.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share with folks before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just think like, you know, my whole message with Zen Soap is just to believe in yourself, no matter what it is that you're going through in life, whether it's something good or you're in a really hard spot and you want to make a change. You can do it because I'm living that right now. I'm a living example of this.
Yeah.
I came from a spot where I would literally just daydream while I was at work about doing something different and lay down in my bed at night and fantasize about how I wanted my life to be.
Yeah.
And when I look back on it now, you know, it's only been a couple short years, but I've already reached those goals and surpassed them, and it's become like more than I could even imagine. And I know it's just going to keep getting better.
That's great.
So just whatever it is, whoever's listening out there, just really grab onto that and take it inside of you, you know, and dream. Like really focus on those dreams, whether you want to call it meditation or whatever you want to call it. Just believe in yourself and go after it if you're passionate about it, because the universe will come together to make it happen for you.
There you go. Parting words from my good friend Chris Cabiya. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on Small Business War Stories today, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, sir. I'm
Thanks
really glad to be here.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories.